Okay, good morning, guys. So we are back with environmental social justice, and we are here today with Joel Vendette and Joy Langford, and myself, Wendy. So real quick, we just wanted to talk about an article that I published on LinkedIn yesterday. I believe it was yesterday, and basically talking about what the true cost of owning an electric vehicle is, because we all know they are more expensive than a gasoline-powered car. We are moving towards the future where we are going to be required to have electric vehicles. Gas cars are kind of going away. We have the Gavin Newsom signed that order. Basically, by 2035, we're going all electric. So I kind of did an analysis of what that true cost is. Go ahead, Joel, jump in.
Just new cars are going to be 20. By 2035, it's only new car sales will be electric.
Only
You'll still have, so just want to clarify that.
Yeah, sorry, didn't clarify that one. And so yeah, since Joel, I wanted to ask you, because last time we spoke about this, purchase price is high for electric vehicles.
Yeah.
And that's one of the issues. What do you have to say about how much it costs?
But they're expensive. I mean, I just don't see how. I mean, I think it's great by 2035 we want to go down this initiative, but it's not just the car. The car itself is expensive. I mean, even the new VW ID4, I think, is averaging around 40,000, and it's like that's just a lot of money for a car. I personally don't like spending money on cars. I don't. That's why I try to keep. I'm very set in my ways on things. I think a car is a luxury, not a must-have. But whatever. That's the East Coast in me coming out.
And I think the 40 grand is like one of the lower end price points. No.
Yeah, but I will say this: they do come pretty loaded at that price point. So that's actually not terrible. So, and then by the time, if you're able to get the tax credits and all that, it does bring it down drastically. But then you still have to figure out how you're going to charge it. So you got to look into those additional costs. So if you want to do a home charging system or versus having to drive somewhere and park it, you've got to spend the money, which can run you a couple grand, possibly more, to have that installed. I mean, if you live in a condo, it'll be drastically more because you have to deal with the wiring throughout the building. You got to do the HOA and all this kind of crap. So it's just the ongoing.
You get approval.
Well, they can't say no. I don't believe legally they can say no. I don't think. Don't quote me on that one, but I don't believe that they have the right to say no anymore.
What if the building has like an older electrical system and can't support that? And they say, listen, then he would have to rewire his entire building, hypothetically.
Well, you never have to rewire. I don't believe you rewire the entire building. It's where the power comes into the complex. That's where you have to do the upgrades. So I believe, my understanding, and I could be wrong, but like say you have a tenant and they wanted to put in and do an electric car charger, you can't say no to that, but you can ask them to pay for it. But then they would then own the system afterwards, or not necessarily the electric system of the complex, but they would keep the charger because it's their own expenses, their own things.
So it depends on the age of the building. I think post 2000, if the building was built post 2000, they do have to provide a charging station. But if it's pre 2000, that's when you get into the negotiation part that Joel is speaking of, and it can become quite contentious.
I would imagine so. I mean, but it's like but it's kind of like condos can't really say no to people putting solar on their units anymore. Like my place in the desert, they passed a law that an HOA cannot say if you have a private roof, they can't dictate you cannot have solar anymore. So it's kind of along those same lines that they're letting people change it. HOAs have to keep up, but they also have to make sure the infrastructure is in place within the buildings to do it. Like a bunch of condo buildings are doing it. And so what they'll do is they'll pass along the charges. They'll get a bunch of people to sign up to have the power company come in and make sure the slots are there or do whatever has to be done. You sign up for it, and then that brings the cost down for the initial part. You're paying for the upgraded systems. But if you have a bulk people coming in and doing it, it's when they become the one-offs that it's just going to become too cost prohibitive.
So okay, let's stick with the condo thing. You have a condo, you put in your charger, you want to sell. Can you sell the rights to the charging station? That's yours?
Yeah, because that's with the condo. I mean, it's in it goes in your particular parking spots. So that comes with,
That makes sense. What about apartments?
I don't think a landlord can say no. I don't think they can.
The landlord would absorb the cost, or
no? I believe that would be a tenant. It would be the tenant who pays for that, and then they would be able to then take the charger with them when they left.
How do you do that?
Because the charger is not permanent. That's just affixed to the wall. So you would just disconnect it and take it, or
Yeah,
the
most
landlord can
chargers
buy
these
them.
days aren't permanent. They're
Yeah.
like hoses that you connect to like a 220 electrical outlet. So it's basically just pulling the thing out of the wall, but the like what you would use for a plug is a different type of plug. Just like you plug in a lamp or something, it's just a different type of plug. And you just take your charging equipment with you, put it in your trunk.
Yeah.
Well, then maybe you can answer me this, because this one's been bugging me for a while. Why? Okay, when I first started discovering this world of electricity, there were numerous chargers for different kinds of cars. Do we have a universal plug-in?
No. I don't believe there is a universal plug-in. I mean, like, because
That's
that's why you have
problem.
Yeah, so if you have Tesla, you go to a Tesla dealer. I think most other ones are a fairly standard thing, but I think Tesla might be its own proprietary. I could be wrong, but I know. So it's all the other ones.
Everything else.
but I think most other car chargers, because it's like in different HOAs, if they try to do it, they'll tell you this one charging facility that they're going to purchase in bulk and what you can use. And I think most cars will fall within that range. But I think Tesla is its own proprietary thing. That's why you go to a Tesla charging station.
Okay.
And I have had to plug up in an emergency at a hotel. And basically you have this cord in the back of your car that looks like a gas station hose. You have to ask them if they have a 220 plug and where it is in their parking garage. And they have to move whatever car they already had parked there. You plug it up, and my God, I must have gotten 70-mile charge for an 8-hour conference. So it can be pretty bad.
And that was basically like your standard wall plug, right?
Yeah, because you just wherever they have a wall plug next to a car slot is where you plug in the emergency hose.
So if you don't have like,
how much did that hotel charge you to do that? To go in?
They actually didn't charge me because they didn't really understand the technology. They just knew I needed some hotels do, and some hotels have chargers, charging stations. But I was at the Biltmore downtown, and they didn't quite know what was going on. So they put me down on the 4th level where they knew they had a plug. I had to hook everything up myself. And of course, this was 2 years ago, but
it's a good thing you're handy. It's a good thing you're handy.
Yeah, thank God you're handy, because I would have just
learn how to be.
I don't know what to do with this thing.
But I think that's going to be the next biggest hurdle, is making sure that people have a way. That's actually going to be one of the biggest hurdles, is making sure people have a way to plug them in a way that's efficient. Because if you miss one overnight charge, you could be screwed. I mean,
I know someone that ran out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
His partner forgot to charge the car the night before. He had a meeting. He went skedaddling out in the morning, died. Car just died in the middle of nowhere. And he was irritated, to say the least, but you know what happens. But you know, I think, Joel, you brought up the tax credit issue. There are no tax credits anymore. Once production reached $200,000, I'm sorry, 200,000 units. So if a manufacturer makes a car and they crest that $200,000 unit, they lose their tax credits.
Yeah, there's not any tax credits right now. The fund that they put together for the consumer in the state of California, at least.
And federally, most EV guys it's done.
Yeah.
They produce more than 200,000 vehicles, so they got phased out.
It was up to, I think it was like I want to say it was $7,000 total when I got my car. You get $3,500 from the state, and then $3,500 from another fund. And then
as it's moved out, it goes from 7,000, 3,500 to 18 to nothing.
But see, now that's kind of, I'm very confused right now, because I was reading about, because I was looking into the new VW, and they're actually test piloting a program in San Diego where you can apply, the dealership will get the state credit automatically, so that way the consumer doesn't have to try to get the refund. So this is where I'm confused.
I don't think VW has 200,000 units out the door yet.
Yeah, but I think, that's just a program I was looking into while I was looking into VW. It's not limited for the VW. it's a program that they're piloting in San Diego. So that's why I'm confused to hear that there's no money in the program, because that's being piloted now or being planned for. And I just read about that about a week or so ago. So I'd be surprised if there's no funds at all.
Well, I'm not quite sure about that, but I know I had trouble when I even tried to get my funds back in the day. It was, they send you a letter and they tell you, oh, we don't have funds yet. And I had just happened to buy the car like in December. So then in January, February, I got another letter saying that you are eligible for the funds. I don't know if they, have a certain budget for every year or what.
That's probably what I would imagine. There's a budget per year, because I believe the program is now going to be, and again, I could be completely wrong, so research this, but I do believe it's going to be piloted in San Diego. So that way that you can apply for it prior to purchasing the car. And that way, when you go purchase it, it just automatically goes to the dealership. So that way the consumer is not having to deal with it. It's just that you get a pre-approved.
If that really exists, that would be great.
Yeah, and that's the way it should be. I mean, and that's the way it was when I did, I think that's what it was, because I bought like the first hybrid Civic when that was first hit the country, like 18, 19 years ago. And I remember that I think I got my discount, like, I don't know if I had to apply for it and if I got it at the time of purchase. That was a long time ago, but that was a long time ago. But yeah, that program needs to be implemented.
Yeah, some of these programs are like the Lord giveth, the Lord taketh away. It's, they need to really try to figure out, something more solid. And you think that after all of these years that they would, but I was worried. I wanted my $3,500 that they promised me.
You spent the money with the understanding to get funds back. And Mikey Lloyd has commented in the comments section, if anyone wants to do some research, there are a couple web links there, and Tesla did reach the cap. So did most other EV manufacturers. So when I was doing my research for the article I wrote, I think it was General Motors is now phased out. Who was the other one? I forgot already. But some of the major manufacturers have already phased out because they hit that 200,000 vehicle sales.
But I'm sure like companies like Volkswagen and different people who are really trying to make a foray into the market, I bet you they're getting some better incentives than, they got people already hooked on Tesla and some of these other brands, Volkswagen.
I was reading an article on the VW because I'm really into this car. I think it's actually really freaking cute. But and I would love to get one, but I just can't justify the money right now. And even the leases are high. I'm like, oh no. But anyway, so they were doing their research, and the people who are actually purchasing the VWs, they're not coming from Tesla. They're not other electric cars. It's actually pulling clients from the RAV4 and from the Honda Civic, from the CRV. So it's actually been interesting to watch the market shift and where they're getting their clients from. So that's actually been kind of a cool thing to see, is people making the swap over. And
they're also better looking. I'm sorry. God bless Prius. They started this, everyone kind of doing this. Those were just not attractive cars. I'm sorry. I would see those things puttering down the street, and I'm like, no, I just can't. I mean, I love them. I love the people who did it. They're wonderful. I just couldn't. But transitioning, can we talk a little bit about insurance costs? Because I know, Joy, you have a Tesla. And the article said the average insurance is like 20% more, which came up to a number, according to my research, of like $1,300 annually. And that's
times about 2. It's the insurance is pretty high. I'm about 2,500, and it's like a third car. But that's basically what it's billed in at, $2,500 a year. I just put a charging station in, like, over COVID, the last 4 months, because I have a detached garage in the back of my building. So they had to dig from under the house, then break the concrete that goes to the garage, hook up a 220 in my garage. And I just figured it's easier than going to a supercharger. And by the way, superchargers are super packed right now. You literally wait in line for 2 hours to charge your car. There is nothing sexy about it anymore. So I said, let me break down and get a charger in the house.
Well, you don't want to sit in the parking garage?
No, especially looking at a bunch of pretentious Tesla drivers. This is their first fancy car that they've ever had, that want to stand in the parking lot and pontificate about nothing, fight over everything, including stalls. I'm like, yeah, let me get my own charger. So I went through that process. We have an electrician that we use. Fortunately, he gave us a deal at $2,000 to completely rewire and put in the charging electricity box. So now I don't have a charging station, so to say, but I can plug in the charging hose that Tesla gives you with the car. Had to call the electricity company last month because the bill was extremely high. I asked my dad to research what the best charging, the off-peak charging time was. He got it wrong, switched it around, said that it was 4 in the afternoon till 9 at night.
That's the opposite.
It was the absolute opposite.
Did you give him the bill?
Oh, he got the bill. He got the bill, and I made him. Just because I wanted him to really see and understand. I made him call the electricity company, Edison, and listen to what the woman was saying. So I'm curious to see what my bill is going to be this month, but it doubled my bill. It was about $145. So what I think we're going to do, and what I started to do the last 2 times the car needed like a full charge, since it's COVID and we grocery shop. I take one of the other cars. I meet him at the charging station early in the morning. We leave the car plugged in. Then we go to the grocery store, do our shopping, do everything else, then have him pick the car back up, and then we take it home.
So is there a charge with that, or is it still free to charge?
It's free to charge. At least it's free for us to charge because we've had the car for over 4 years. I heard whisperings that newer versions, they do charge you. They bill it through your car, and then Tesla sends you a bill every month. But I don't know if Tesla's backed off of that. But for us, it is free. So while I'm doing errands and what have you, it's easy for me just to scoop him and the dog up in the car, and then meet him down at the charging station, take care of our other business for an hour and a half while it charges, and move on.
That's not bad.
So that's actually awesome, and great that it's free for you, but that doesn't encompass everybody apparently. Yeah. So one of the things that I keep talking about is, we are losing the average American middle-class family because everything's more expensive, these fees that are getting put out there. And one of the things that I recently learned that kind of bothered me, lack of a better term, was Metro is planning on implementing what they call fees. Now, these fees are really taxes. So the first one discussed was a congestion pricing fee. So a tax to drive in high traffic areas. New York is doing it. London is doing it. I don't see a huge problem with that. You don't necessarily need to drive in certain parts of downtown LA. You can park and walk or something. Maybe not right now, but when I was working downtown, it wasn't that bad. The one that I had an issue with, and this was brand new, discussed on a open call late last week, I believe, is charging every single individual who owns a car a fee that would go to Metro to help supplement the lost revenue from COVID. I have an issue with that. Everyone in the LA County, this would be everyone in LA County would be charged a car ownership fee, and low-income housing would be exempt. It would be based on your how old your vehicle is, the model of your vehicle. Obviously, if it's luxury, they're going to charge you more. So that's concerning. That's, to me, kind of overstepping. I understand wanting to encourage people to take Metro. I get that, but I don't think that's the right way. I don't think charging a tax on owning a car is the right thing to do.
No, because Joel, people are still going to be taking Uber and Lyft and all that, and I think that's actually what's been the biggest impact on everything, to be perfectly, I mean, in my opinion, because nobody wants to take metro, but you can just hop in a car and be driven around and like somebody fancy. And it's just convenient and it's cheap, So, I mean, but then as that started happening, people started taking less and less public transportation, which in turn puts more cars on the road because you've got more Uber and Lyft drivers, and you've got the scooters, and you've got all this kind of crap that's out there right now. I don't love the idea of the tax. I understand why, but we've created a system where we aren't using our public transportation because we could just have somebody drive up to a door. And like we talked about before, LA is not set, but LA is also just not set up for public transportation. It's just not.
Yeah, we're too spread out. London and New York they have centralized hubs, and it radiates out from that. We're kind of several hubs that interconnect in a weird drunken spider web.
In one line. Like, that makes no sense. I mean, seriously, I mean, look at it. I mean, you've got like the yellow line, which is going to come all the way, it's supposed to go out to Santa Monica, but once you get off of it, where are you supposed to go? Then you got to walk, you got to try to find the bus station, or you got to call your Uber and Lyft driver or your scooter, get on a scooter and drive around. We're not set up to be they're not, in my opinion, LA is not, they're not focusing on creating a metro system that truly works. Like you're saying, and we talked about before, LA is a bunch of smaller hubs that creates one big city. So you almost have to have all these smaller infrastructures and then you connect them versus trying to just create one line.
And we're getting several comments from Patty Lloyd. Taxes are not good. It's taxing people to death, and people don't want this. The general public does not want more taxes. I mean, this will hurt gardeners, landscapers they can't take the bus. They've got equipment.
Those are the ones who are going to be impacted the most by the congestion tax. It's not going to be the wealthy people because it's going to be their workers who are coming to work for them.
But
it's like a thing of where you want to tax everybody to aid the poor. I mean, this happens with everything, and a lot of the stuff that we're seeing even on the ballot. And I know we don't have much time left, but you want to tax everybody so that eventually the poor have something that you can tax them again for. It's unbelievable. It's a horrible cycle, and the poor always end up on the bad end, whether that's housing, affordable housing. But I will get off my soapbox, but I think that this is a topic we should definitely use again. We should really have this as one of the topics of discussion.
I think that well, you know what? Perfect timing, Joy, and we will make that next week's discussion. I'm going to lean on you for some of that info because you are the legislative person. You are actively involved in this stuff. I'm the big dummy that just studied rocks. So on that note, I will see everybody next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. And thank you so much. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.
Bye.